remember when Sonic Colors came out, seeing an Accolades commercial on TV. That's actually what got me to play Sonic Colors, and I enjoyed it. But that trick doesn't work anymore because Sega's done Accolade trailers for their three most recent games. They did one for Sonic Origins, they did one for Sonic Frontiers, and they did one for Superstars. I've never seen someone celebrate average praise before. And yeah, that's what I think of Sonic Superstars. It's fine. I mean, it's not bad, it's not good, it's just okay. But that's not what we're here to talk about tonight. Here, we're going to be talking about Sonic 3. This game was released in 1994 for the Sega Genesis, and at the time of its release, Sonic was in a really good place. Sonic 2 was probably the most beloved game that was ever released for the Sega Genesis. And on top of that, the merchandise train was hot. You had several animated series, two different comic book series. Sonic was just on top of the world at the time. So with success like that, Sega just let Sonic Team run wild with the next game. And what they wanted to do was essentially the biggest and baddest Sonic game yet. And that was going to take some time, which is why in 1993 you saw so many Sonic spin-offs. That's why instead of Sonic 3 you had Sonic CD, Spinball, Mean Bean Machine, all that stuff. But as the team entered 1994, Sega started to realize that the game still wasn't quite ready. They were just about 75% done with it at the time, I think. And in addition to that, the size of the game was starting to get out of hand. It was getting to the point where if they were to release the game, it was probably going to cost upwards of $100. So they decided to release what they had, which was released as just Sonic 3, which received a positive reception when it came out, but everyone agreed there was something off about it. And then later came Sonic and Knuckles, which at the time we thought was Sonic the Hedgehog 4. But Sonic and Knuckles was a weird beast. The cartridge, the top of it actually opened up and had another cartridge slot, so you could actually plug another game into it. So if you plugged Sonic 2 into it, for example, you could play through the entirety of Sonic 2 with Knuckles, which is cool. But more importantly, if you plugged Sonic 3 into it, you would get Sonic 3 and Knuckles, which a lot of people I know think just adds Knuckles to Sonic 3. But it actually does something a bit more interesting. It actually combines Sonic 3 and Sonic and Knuckles together, and what you get is actually what Sonic Team originally intended for Sonic 3. So it was, I guess you could say, part 1 and part 2 for Sonic 3 and Sonic and Knuckles. It's certainly interesting and something I really do not think would fly today. But at the time, they could get away with it because, yeah, you paid $50 for the equivalent of 2 games, but you were also getting 2 Sonic games, so make of that what you will. Sonic 3, I don't think would ever be as successful as Sonic 2, but it was still popular in its day, and these days, Sonic 3 is getting a lot of praise, especially Sonic 3 and Knuckles. There's a good deal of the fan base who regards this as the very best game in the series, and that's my sentiment too. My personal favorite is Sonic 2. It's just the game I have the most nostalgia for, but whenever someone asks me what I think is the best game in the series, I always say Sonic 3, and when I say that, I'm always referring to Sonic 3 and Knuckles, because that is the game that Sonic Team originally intended to make. I refuse to acknowledge either game as just Sonic 3 or Sonic and Knuckles. So we're not going to be looking at Sonic and Knuckles, we're just going to be looking at Sonic 3, which again is the 2 games mixed together. But there was another issue when considering how I was going to do this video, and that was which version of Sonic 3 to play. Unlike a lot of games in the series, which have been released pretty frequently over the years, Sonic 3 and Knuckles the complete game, I mean, rarely ever got re-released. There was the original release, of course. Then you had the release on Mega Collection, which was an unlockable, for the record. And then you had the Steam release, where it was DLC for, what was it, the Genesis Collection? But for stuff like the Ultimate Genesis Collection, it wasn't part of that. Or really, most of the Genesis Collections, now that I think about it. It wasn't until Sonic Origins came out that we actually got the game completed and actually updated for the first time. Though I guess I should say updated, because people are probably aware that the Origins version has some issues. It's got more bugs. They changed out the music for a couple of levels. For reasons that utterly baffled me. No, it was not because of an issue with Michael Jackson's estate. Don't ever bring that up. But, yeah, I don't understand why they felt to botch that, because that was the primary reason I got Origins in the first place, because I wanted to play that updated version of the game. So, because I was so disappointed with that, I decided I'm going to go with the Steam release because, I don't want to honor stupidity. Though, frustratingly, Sega, in their infinite wisdom, decided that when they released Sonic Origins, that they would delist all versions of the original Sonic the Hedgehog game. So, if you want to play Sonic 3, your only option these days is to play the Origins collection. Unless you have Mega Collection or the original release, it's just hard to track this game down in its complete form, which is really frustrating. Also, side rants, if you're going to release a remaster, do not delist the original version if it is available. It did not work when Blizzard did that with Warcraft. It did not work when Rockstar did the GTA trilogy, and it especially didn't work with Sonic Origins. And it's a bad idea when EA isn't doing it. When the Dead Space remake came out, they didn't delist the original Dead Space. How are you doing worse than EA, for crying out loud? Yep. Don't do that again, guys. Don't ever do that. Alright. Let's go ahead and get this booted up. Quick sound check while it's doing worse than EA. Alright, talked a little bit about this collection when I was doing my spin-off video. And it's weird for me playing this on PC because the only game I would have in this collection is Sonic 3 and Knuckles, because I didn't buy the complete game on Steam. I bought it on my Switch just so I could play these games on the go, and then I was stupid enough to buy Origins, so God, I have a lot of copies of these games. But this is one of only 3 copies of this game I own, actually. Okay, so I'm not big on this title screen. It's the same general idea, but I feel like Sonic just takes up a little too much real estate. He sort of overshadows the title itself. And my god, do I hate that render of Sonic. Like, a nice 2D pixel art, none of that weird 3D stuff, it just doesn't work for him. I do like that Angel Island's in the background though, that's eye-catching. So, one of the things that sort of clues you in to the fact that Sonic 3 wasn't complete for its initial review was that it had a save system, but it wasn't any longer than the previous Sonic games. So if it's like that, why have a save system? Well, like I said, when you play this with Sonic and Knuckles, it mixes the 2 games together, so you're actually playing a much larger game that's a bit tiring to play in one sitting. So that's why they have the save feature implemented. And as you can see, another big feature of this game are multiple playable characters. And I wanted to show off the different characters, so I went ahead and played ahead at different points in the story so that I could at least show off each playable character. So I'm gonna go ahead, start with my boy Sonic. Oh yeah, that's right. So the reason I went back is anyone's inclination is to press A. But if you do that, if for some reason boots you back to the title, you actually have to push start. Also really the first Sonic game to have cutscenes. Got our boy Knuckles in his first appearance too. So a few things I want to comment on with that opening. So first of all, it doesn't really indicate too well that you're on Angel Island. Like any Sonic fan knows that Angel Island is a floating island, so why that was the clouds instead of the ocean, I have no idea. But there are also some weird inconsistencies with the lore of the series. With the Chaos Emeralds, for example, they're supposed to scatter whenever you collect them, and we can assume that Sonic collected them all at the end of Sonic 2. So for Sonic to still have them is a little strange, and for him to just waste them on a Super Sonic transformation right off the bat is a little odd too. But my guess is he collected the emeralds right away and was just eager to get whatever is over with, because the reason they're going to Angel Island is because the Death Egg landed there from the end of Sonic 2. But then Knuckles shows up, somehow knocks the Chaos Emeralds out of Super Sonic, and then takes off with them. Which is kind of strange when you really think about it, because that's not how all that's supposed to work. I guess Knuckles used some kind of Chaos spell from the Chaos Emerald to, neutralize Super Sonic, but that's never really been stated. Like, the story here is very simple anyway, but it actually tries to tell its story, which is really interesting, especially for the time. Most video games at the time just use story as a, context. But the fact that this game actually tries to tell a flowing narrative and succeeds to some degree is actually really impressive for the time. So, alright, let's get going. So, pretty typical first level for Sonic, though I do like how it's very distinct from, Green Hill Zone for starters. And right away I find the first special zone, isn't that fun? And this must have been really impressive for 1994. Yeah, Sonic 3 really does push the Genesis to its graphical limits with these special stages and some of the levels, which can get really detailed and busy. So all you really gotta do here is get all the blue spears. If you can complete a perimeter like I just did there, you can turn the blue spears into rings, which is a more efficient way to clear them out than having to collect them all individually. And the longer you stay in the special stage, the faster you go. And you have to move along this grid pattern too, so... Ah, crap. It's an interesting take on the special stages, and one I've always enjoyed. I especially like it more than the half-pipe stage. Though, the half-pipe stage is probably more iconic, which is why that always gets used instead. What was I saying earlier? So, one of the things I don't like about Sonic Superstars is that despite it being marketed as the first fully original Sonic game since, I think, Sonic Rush Adventure, it really doesn't feel like it. It's really only original in the sense that it uses a lot of the familiar level themes, but it just doesn't call them Green Hill Zone or anything like that. And as a result, it just kind of feels like a generic Sonic game, if that makes sense. This is a good example of how you can mix up the general Sonic themes. Because again, this is a very familiar Sonic level, but it's more jungle, a tropical jungle, and now it's on fire, so yeah, this does feel different. Also interesting to note a change with the philosophy of level design. Whereas a lot of the levels in Sonic 2 tended to be very roller coaster in nature, the levels in Sonic 3 sort of rein that in slightly. There's still plenty of sections where you're just allowed to let loose and, you know, just let Sonic power through a bunch of loops and stuff. But the levels also encourage exploration slightly, especially with the multiple character system, which I'll explain later. Now, I'm typically against that in a Sonic game because I just prefer, you know, a nice flow through the levels. But they find just the right balance between that while also having rewards for people who want to explore the levels a little bit. This is where I think they really perfected how a good Sonic level should be designed. And there goes my shield. Aw man, I had the shield, and I didn't comment on the elemental shields. So that's another new feature in Sonic 3. You have 3 different types of shields. Right now I got the bubble shield, which, while I have this, I can't drown in water, which is a really useful tool. But when you play as Sonic, if you double tap the button, you can do a different move. So with this I can bounce, which lets me get to higher areas. It's not really necessary for progression. You don't really need the shields to get through any point of the game. But it's still a welcome inclusion, especially for Sonic since he doesn't have all the special moves that the other characters do. Definitely not my best showing so far, that's for sure. I spent the week playing this. You'd think I would be doing better with this. Guess it's true what they say, it is hard to play well and talk at the same time. I think I gotta go this way. As for the presentation here, I mean, I think it speaks for itself. This is just a really good-looking Genesis game. Like, look at the background there, you see the haze? And Sonic's character model is just great right there. He doesn't look as pudgy as he used to be. He's starting to look more like a classic Sonic. Not classic Sonic, or modern Sonic. It's a nice bridge between the old series and Sonic Adventure, I would say. That's an ominous drone. Makes me think of City Escape with the truck. It's really funny if you play this section with Tails drilling after Sonic because he can't keep up, so he just gets bombarded for this whole thing. Into the woods. And there's Eggman. It's kind of fitting that we're ending with a fight in the waterfall. Something else I didn't really like about Sonic Superstars for the boss fights. Like you see here, I can take Eggman out pretty rapidly because when he presents an opportunity to hit himself, he can hit him multiple times, but the way the levels are designed in Sonic Superstars is, I guess you could say, old school, where you have to sit through a pattern and then wait for Eggman to expose a weak spot of some kind. And because of that, the boss fights just take a long time to do. There was one boss fight in that game that took me 12 minutes to do, which I thought was just outrageous. Now we get to Hydro City, or is it Hydrosity? I've never really been sure. I gotta say, this is probably my favorite water level of any 2D Sonic game. I said in my Sonic 2 review that part of the reason Aquatic Ruin was so much better than Labyrinth Zone was because you had an alternate path through the level that allowed you to stay out of the water. And Hydro City has that as well. In addition to just some really good platforming. Like, I go in the water here, but it's not long before I'm out of it, and they do a pretty good job at having the bubbles in places where you wouldn't be hurting for air when you got to them. For the uninitiated, it might be a little troublesome, but the uninitiated probably never made it to Labyrinth Zone when they were playing Sonic 1, I'd say. I certainly did, and I used to think this level was horrible when I was a kid. Oh, what a poor fool I was. Regardless, it's still stressful when Sonic starts to run out of oxygen. Woo! Colors in this level are just really good too. Doesn't have that dull look that Labyrinth Zone does. That's another interesting thing about Sonic 3. Whereas you only had bosses at the end of the second act or third act in the previous games, here there's a boss at the end of every act. Not really sure that serves much of a purpose, but it does serve as a nice bookend. Let you know you're at least halfway through the level. And how the levels flow into each other is really good too. Hydro City, Hydrosity. How do you guys think it's pronounced? I got a wall trying to crush me. No problem. Just gotta carefully make your way through all this. Don't panic. My god, the music in this level is awesome. The whole soundtrack in this game is fantastic. Which brings us to one of the big debates in the Sonic fandom. Was this soundtrack done by Michael Jackson? The story goes that Sega somehow managed to obtain Michael Jackson to compose the music for this game. Which, honestly, wouldn't be too outside the norm. Sonic was really big at the time, but evidently Jackson hated how the music sounded on the Genesis, so he opted to refuse credit for the game. Now, this has always been a rumor, it's never been confirmed. I always heard people saying that it was confirmed when Sonic Origins came out, and that's the reason why a lot of the music was changed. But I never found, like, news post or anything like that saying that it was true, and I seriously doubt that's the reason why the music was changed, because they were releasing the ROM of Sonic 3 and Knuckles, the individual games, not together, every couple of years or so, and they never had any issues with it then, so why was it suddenly an issue when Origins came out? If I had to guess, maybe the sound files got corrupted at some point and they were just too lazy to remake them, instead just choosing to put whatever it was they decided to put in the game. But whatever the case, it just wasn't a suitable enough replacement. Not all the music in Sonic Origins was changed, and a lot of the songs that were changed weren't the best ones anyway. But they got rid of the theme song from Ice King, man. I mean, how are you gonna do that? That's one of the best songs in the game. It's also my own headcanon as to why Christian Whitehead, Evening Star Studios, I think they're called now, the Mania team, declined not to work on Sonic Superstars like Sega had originally intended, because those guys handled Sonic Origins, and from what we know, Sega sort of mistreated them during that whole process. So even though Whitehead claims that his studio still has a good relationship with Sega, I highly doubt that's the case. I have a feeling they chose to work on an original project instead of working with Sega again because they just realized that they could fly higher than, Sega and Sonic Team. Which they can, as they have already proved with Sonic Mania, which is better than anything Sonic Team has made as of late. It's also interesting to note, Sonic 3 was the last original 2D Sonic game that Sonic Team would actually make. All the other games were, crap. I should have been more patient there. I might be in a bad spot here. Or maybe... yeah, I'm screwed. Yeah, this was the last 2D Sonic game that a Sonic Team would actually make. Now, people always bring up, like, Sonic Advanced and Rush games, but all that was actually handled by another party called Dibs. While Sonic Team was more concerned with the adventure games, and then later just screwing everything up with games like Sonic Shadow the Hedgehog and a game we don't talk about. People who know me personally know what game I'm talking about, and I'm sure you guys can probably guess which one I'm talking about since it came after Shadow the Hedgehog. Oh man, it's been a long time since I think Sonic Team has made anything worthwhile. They really should have just let the Mania team have at it, instead of, being Sonic Team. It's just really solid platforming here in the way it goes between the fast-paced segments and the platform. It's just so masterfully done. The level design is just good with the enemy placement, how you move through it, the flow. This is all the stuff that they just kind of neglected in Sonic Superstars, where the level design wasn't necessarily bad, but it was very haphazard. Enemies would be placed in weird places, so it's kind of hard to tell which way was forward a lot of the time. And of course, some really lousy boss fights too. The graphics weren't terribly good either. They were fine, but you would think that we could do better at this point. And some really piss-poor music too. Nothing like what you're hearing right now. And there's a boy Knuckles again. Now, it's funny how we always remember Knuckles as something of a simpleton. But think about all these traps that he's laid for Sonic. He's actually got a talent for guerrilla warfare, you have to give him that. Now you might say, hey man, it's not really presenting me much of a chance to hit him here, but he's still dropping these bombs. And if you time it right, you can actually have him launch it skyward. Then you can land on top of them and completely curb stomp them. You can't do stuff like that in Superstars, it wasn't designed for that. Alright, Marble Zone. As I said, we're going to switch to another character now. Gotta reset the console to do that, though. Alright, Tails. So, the change of characters isn't just cosmetic. The characters also have different attributes compared to each other, at least Sonic and Knuckles do. Tails himself doesn't have many differences compared to Sonic, apart from the fact that his character's probably smaller, so he's a little bit harder to hit. But the main thing Tails can do that Sonic can't is fly. And what's good about how it's handled here versus Sonic Chaos is that instead of having to push up plus the jump button, you just have to push the jump button and then push it again to start flying. And if you mash the button like that, that's how you gain altitude. But Tails can only fly for so long before he tires out, so you gotta keep that in mind. So, Tails being able to fly, it makes it easier to land platforms because it can slow your fall and also, you know, help you get to platforms if you come up short. Wait, what happened there? Huh. I guess there are some glitches that existed in this previous version too. Stuff like that is far more frequent in the Origins collection in my experience. I'm kind of disappointed in myself. I spent a good chunk of this video complaining about Sonic Superstars. But really, I just wanted to have fun talking about Sonic 3. This is just such a good entry in the series. Alright, so a good example of how it's good is actually in how they use the multiple characters. So, since Tails can fly, he can get to places that Sonic can't. And what's good about that is that it allows you to explore the levels a little bit more in search of the Chaos Emeralds, which you do have to explore to find the Warp Rings. And Tails can get to them a lot easier than Sonic can. So it's fun to just play through the game initially as Sonic, but then for another playthrough, play as Tails, explore the other nooks and crannies to see where the Chaos Emeralds are, and then see if you can get Sonic to those same locations, and get the Chaos Emeralds for him too. And why would you want to get the Chaos Emeralds? Well, for the same reason you want to get them in Sonic 2, so you can use Super Sonic. But there's actually more. It's actually a secondary form you can get for Sonic, and also forms for Sonic and for Tails and Knuckles as well. Might actually get to show you how you get those forms tonight, if I make it that far. But, yeah. It's just really good level design how they incorporate that. It really does encourage you to play multiple times, which is good, especially which would think would actually be a bad thing with the way this game is. You got like over a dozen levels here. So the fact that you still want to continue playing even after you've seen everything is a testament to the overall quality of the game. Like, I played through these first 6 levels a bunch of times getting ready for this video tonight, and there wasn't a point as I was playing where I was annoyed that I had to play through a level again. I was just having a good time just playing the game. It's still fun to play. Something else that's interesting, so the only 2 cartridges you can really do anything for with the Sonic and Knuckles cards is Sonic 2 and Sonic 3. If you try to plug in Sonic 1, you'll just get the Blue Spheres minigame. And the reason for that is it's due to a color palette difference, a different game engine, I guess you could say. So Knuckles wouldn't work in that game. And apart from that, plugging in other games into the console just wouldn't do anything. And I think Sega needed to include that lockout because that was a common way to bypass lockout chips at the time. Just have another slot on top of the cartridge so that you could plug an unlicensed game into it and then play it on the Genesis without any issue. Like Super Noah's Ark or Little Red Hood or whatever that game. People who watch the Angry Video Gamer probably know what I'm talking about there. These Easter Island heads are kind of creepy, aren't they? As for Marble Zone here, the obvious comparison for a lot of people is probably going to be Marble Zone from Sonic 1. But this does have its own unique feel, mostly in how there's a lot of rocks crumbling around and just a bunch of different mechanisms and traps to deal with. And of course, it appearing to be in a mountainous region as opposed to in a volcano, like in Marble Zone, also gives a unique feel. Really do like the music here too, it's very jazzy. Oh, I almost ran into that thing. And I still ran into that thing. Ha! And I need that stupid pop. I can just go back this way. Come on, Tails, land on the platform. Got Fire Shield. So Tails and Knuckles can't use the special powers granted by the elemental shields, which is fine. With their own special abilities, they don't really need that. It's mostly something they probably made to make it worthwhile playing as Sonic. Alright, get back here. Spikes. Ah. Already 40 minutes into the stream. I have to play this a little bit longer. I got an extra long video tonight. I know not to stand there. And of course, Eggman is trying to crush me again. This time it's coming up from below as opposed from the side, like back in Hydro City. Maybe that's later. Yeah, I guess you could call Tails the easy mode of the game, since his ability to fly allows him to bypass so many hazards. And his levels are essentially the same as Sonic's, just without a lot of the... Actually, yeah, the cutscenes are still there, I'd say. Knuckles, he has some alternate paths through the levels that he has to take. And I guess you could say Knuckles is the hard mode of the game. You'll probably see more of what I'm talking about when I go to play as him. These levels are quite a bit longer than the Genesis games too, which is also something I'm okay with. Because I can't think of a single level in this game where there isn't some enjoyment to be had with making your way through it. Like, when I think of a level in this game, I can immediately tell you how I remember moving through it. Like, for Marble Zone example here, what I always remember are the steep slopes, those tops, the rotating platforms. And again, that's something that was really lacking in Sonic Superstars, where all the levels just kind of felt the same, despite the very themes. It's something that the Mania team understood too. Either all the people who worked on these games back in the day don't work for Sega anymore, or the current team just, you know, has lost touch with what made the original games good in the first place. Or just content to imitate what's popular these days. I read somewhere that the head of Sega wants Sonic to surpass Mario, which is kind of silly because he kind of already did that at some point. But also because part of the reason Sonic did so well for Sega was that he didn't necessarily copy what Mario did, but just kind of did his own thing in the same genre. Like, you can say Sonic was definitely inspired by Mario, but he wasn't an imitator like, say, Alex Kidd was. If you play a Sonic game, you'll get a unique gameplay feel, whereas you'll get something completely different from Mario. I think this was the part I was talking about earlier. Ah, crap. Usually I get through there without much issue. I guess I've played this so many times over the past week that I've kind of gotten rusty. Either that, or I'm just used to playing through this whole game as Sonic. I usually don't bother with the other characters. When I go to replay it, I mean. Alright. Swear those things are about as annoying as the splicers are. Actually, they aren't that annoying. You can actually get around those guys. That was a mistake. This that boss fight is a little awkward to do with Tails. See, you can still attack from underneath if you hit him with Tails, you know, tails as he's flying. With, when you play as Sonic, Tails is carrying Sonic, and you just have to drop him on Eggman. But with this, you kind of have to bump into him from below. And it's just kind of awkward to do. See if I can get it right this time. Eggman can't even see me right now. Ah, why'd you have to move? See, that's how you have to hit him. It's not impossible. Just gotta know where to position yourself. Ah! Does suck if you brush up against that thing, especially if you lost all your rings like I have. Alright, get on with it, Eggman. Ah, again? Just get really unlucky with losing my rings. Ah, I'm not falling for that again. Missed him. I'm gonna try to get him as he's going up. On from the side, get a little bit low. Ah! Brushed up against the thruster again. I only got one life left. I'll get him this time. Otherwise, I may just go ahead and switch to Knuckles, because I really don't feel like playing through Marble Zone again. I'm sure you guys wouldn't enjoy that. Okay, I'm not even gonna try to attack him this time. Now I'm ringless. I forgot I shouldn't try to attack him when he goes in that direction. What? Ah, forget you. We're just gonna go ahead and switch to Knuckles. Which means we're gonna skip a zone too. The Carnival Night Zone's not a terribly exciting one. So where Knuckles differs from Sonic is he's slower for one, he doesn't accelerate as fast, and he can't jump as high either. But he can glide, and he can climb up walls, so he can get to places even Tails can't. My god, do I love the music in this stage. I'll play this next time I go skiing. Be a lot of fun. Also, T. Lopes does an amazing cover of this song. So why did they make Knuckles for the game is probably a good question to answer. Well, by this point in the series, you had a sidekick for Sonic. You had a arch enemy with Eggman. Yeah, love interest with Amy. And you had an evil counterpart with Metal Sonic. So Sega thought that what Sonic needed next was a rival. So rather than, like Metal Sonic, who is just a dupe fit of Sonic, Knuckles has abilities that are similar to Sonic's, but it put more emphasis on strength, so there's a different character there. Like, the contrast between Sonic and Knuckles has always been really interesting to me personally. Sonic has always been something of a drifter. He just goes where the wind takes him, like the wind, you often hear people say. Whereas Knuckles is more akin to a solitary mountain. He tends to stay in one place for long periods of time, because he has to guard the Master Temple, so he's not off traveling the world like Sonic is, which is something that Knuckles actually has admitted that he envies. Which he actually said out loud for the first time in Sonic Frontiers, as much as I hate to admit it. So yeah, Knuckles is an interesting character and a good addition to the series. I also like how they give him alternate levels too, because it makes his stages a little more interesting to play. I guess that's another thing I forgot to mention. Whereas Sonic and Tails need to build up some momentum to smash through certain walls, Knuckles can just walk through them. I wonder if those 3 dots on that thing are supposed to look like a face. I'm just thinking about random stuff here. What am I doing? I don't think it was a good idea to make Knuckles alternate color green though, because the first thing I think of is Christmas. Crapola. I didn't realize there was a bottomless pit there. It's been a while since I played through this game as Knuckles. Stupid penguins. There we go. Ball! Okay, hey! Oh, wait, what do we have here? Ooh! See if I can get that emerald. It's always fun when you discover something that you didn't know was there. Alright. I can do this. And as soon as I say that, it starts to pick up the tempo. Ah, crap! Ah! 2 minutes left in the stream. See if I can finish Ice Cape Zone, and then I'll switch over to another save file and show you guys. No, I'm just gonna show you guys now. Definitely not my best showing. It's important to note that, though I do acknowledge this is the best Sonic game, this isn't the one I've played the most. That's obviously Sonic 2. Anyway, let me show you guys. Dadgummit! So it looks like Knuckles is hiding something in there. Why don't we go take a look? So that takes you to the Master Emerald Shrine. So if you manage to get here with all 7 Chaos Emeralds, you can collect what are called Super Emeralds. And with that, Super Sonic can become Hypersonic, who is even more OP. And you can also get a super form for Knuckles and Tails. So, again, just really encourages replay, exploration, using the multiple different characters. Like, just good solid design. But anyway, that's where we're gonna call it with Sonic 3 tonight. So, yeah, Sonic 3, especially Sonic 3 and Knuckles, is just really good. It actually tells a story which is unique for the time. It's not a great story, but it does work. The presentation is great. Like, this game is pushing the Genesis to its absolute limits. The music is amazing. The level design is great. So many great level themes here, many of which I would like to see return. You know, if they ever decide to do like a Sonic Generations 2 or something, which I don't want you to do, Sega. You have not earned the right to do that yet. And just lots of content. I mean, you got over a dozen stages. You got 3 different characters to play as. 4 if you include Sonic and Tails together. And while I wish there was another option, the Origins version of the game, it's not so bad that it's unplayable. It's just not the ideal way to play it. But if you just want to experience Sonic 3 for the gameplay and everything, it's a perfectly fine way to do it. Just be prepared. There are some things that are wrong with it, the music, some glitches, but apart from that, you'll still get the whole experience there. But yeah, that's Sonic 3, and we have reached the peak of the series. This is what I consider to be the best one, but there's still more memories to be had. I'm not exactly sure what I got next for the Sonic series. I think it's time for another compilation video. I'll have to look into that. But if you enjoyed tonight's content, like and subscribe. I do these videos every week, Saturday at 8. Aside from instances where I need to post the videos earlier. But apart from that, you guys have a good night, have a good work week, and I will see you guys next time.